Hi everyone. Today we're going to talk about taking care of your fursuits, doing certain care things like washing and brushing your suits. Fursuits are a very expensive item, so being able to take care of your fursuit will make it last a very long time. Now, there are several videos I've shown you how to wash your fursuit using the tub method. Personally, I like to use the Bissel green machine. I feel it does a lot better job and it saves a lot of time on drying the suit. So we're going to go over some care instructions on how to take care of your fursuit to make it last a very long time by washing my face. I am very dirty. I have just come back from MFF just a few days ago. We're going to start with how to wash your fursuit, as well as how I brush my suit to give me that signature fluff that everybody knows. So we're going to start with how to wash and then how I brush my suit. And we're going to use my Bissel with Woolite. Now, I use the white bottle Woolite, the one made for synthetics, because my fur is synthetic fur. It's not real fur. So we're going to make sure we use the right soap for that. So let's start washing my fursuit. Gonna put your shampoo in till about halfway up the container. And then you're gonna fill the container until it's up to the full line with cold water. On a fursuit hat, it's very important to watch out for areas like the eyes, so your eyes don't get ruined when you're washing the suit. So you just want to take some paper towels and you can stick it in the eyes. Now it's going to look kind of cursed, but that's going to protect your suit eyes so they don't get ruined, because this machine actually sprays water, so it'll get all over the suit, including the eyes. So we take some paper towel and we stuff into these eyes, so that way the eyes don't get wet. They stay nice and dry that way. So we're going to go ahead and wash the fursuit. I'm going to switch to the tail first, so that way you guys see what method I use as far as brushing the fur and washing the fur using the Bissel and a slicker brush. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the tail and show you how to use the Bissel. The head, there's a lot of different angles and nooks and crannies and stuff that you got to get into. And this is a very tedious thing, especially as I'm recording by myself. So I'll show you on the tail because it's a lot easier to do. But it's the same methods I'm going to use on the head as well as on my bodysuit and paws. Now we're going to show you on the tail here. Here's my little green machine. So the water's on this side here, and the waste goes on this side here. So what we're going to do is we're going to spray the tail, and we're going to vacuum against the fur, thus pulling all the dirt out and into this container over here. It's kind of noisy, so just showing you that now, just kind of telling you that now before I do it, so that way you know how to do this. Now I don't do the whole tail at one time. Now my tail is all washed. You see all the fur is brushed back the opposite direction. I actually clean and brush my tails quite frequently. Same with the head and the bodysuit. I brush and wash them quite frequently. I use this green machine for all of it. I don't use the tub method because at the end of the day, the tub method, it's basically soaking in the same grime that you just rinsed out of it. This at least extracts it out of the fur. After you wet it down, it'll pull it back out and it leaves it nice and soft, as well as much cleaner than if you just soaked it in a tub. So can do the same thing on the bodysuit and on the head, hand paws. You can do the same thing on everything. Just go against the grain. And we're going to let this go ahead and dry. And when it starts to dry a bit more, I'll show you one of my brushing methods that makes my fur actually very soft and puffy. So that way it's very nice to look at, very nice to touch. So you guys won't have to wait. We're going to use the magic of editing and just... Okay, this has had a chance to dry a little bit. It's a little damp to the touch still. We'll use our slicker brush. And this is when we drip brush with the grain of the fur. Very gentle. And we brush it all down the whole tail until you have the whole thing brushed. Now you can tell I brush this a lot, so the brush actually glides through here pretty easy. I'm actually only using one hand. I'm not holding the tail at all. So it doesn't take much for me to get this brush to go through. We'll start with brushing this all down. Now I'm going to brush it all down real quick, and I'll come right back. So now we have all the fur brushed down. It's still damp. We're going to leave it damp. And what we're going to do is, before it dries, we're going to brush all the fur back and actually stand the fur up. And we're going to leave it dry like this to where it naturally wants to stand up. This is the secret to why my fur is very puffy, is I actually back brush it quite a bit. So I'm going to back brush the whole tail. Okay, now you notice, so here's the top of my tail. Here's the bottom of my tail. Notice all the fur is back brushed the whole length of the tail. Now we're going to let this dry just like this. At least a little bit more. We're going to let this dry just like this. And once it starts drying more, we're going to brush this all back down again. And then back brush it again and let it dry completely. The initial brush down was actually just to remove any snarls and tangles. The brush back up is to make the fur want to stand up on its own once it dries. The brush back down is to lay the fur back down. The more you do it, the more the fur wants to actually stand up away from the tail like this. And that's what gives it its puffy, fluffy appearance. The more I brush this back and forth like this, the more these little hairs will separate. And that's what keeps me from getting the snarls and the knots and the wavy fur, is how much I actually brush this tail, as well as my bodysuit and everything. I do the same thing on my head, my bodysuit, and my tail, and my hand paws. I do the exact same thing on all the parts. We're using a tail because it takes a lot less space to do the video. I will do the exact same stuff on all of the parts. Consequently, I wash these a lot. I wash these usually before and after every con. This is why you wash your fursuits. That is from MFF and one public outing for 2 hours. That's all that was on this tail since the last time I washed it. But wash your suits frequently. take care of them, they'll last a very, very long time. This is very soft. By the time I finish, I could take the slicker brush and brush it forward or back with no resistance whatsoever in the fur. Like I said, I'm only showing using the tail, but I do the exact same procedure on the rest of the suit to include the head, the body, and the paws. This just fits on camera easier. So we're going to once again let this dry a little while longer, and then I'm going to brush it back down, brush it back up, and then let it dry the rest of the way before brushing it back down for it to stay down again, and then I'll be back to you to give you the final result. Now that my tail's all dry and brushed 3 times, as a matter of fact, now it's time for the payoff. It looks nice and all. Focus. Looks nice and all, but there's one thing that's got to be done yet. That is how I get my signature fluffy look. Lots of brushing, and every time, because it's the way it's brushed, I can mess this fur up all I want. And then just shake it, and it looks freshly brushed. That's how I brush my fur.